All right, players, welcome to Rage Master's Guide to Being Semi-Competent at Onward. You're watching me load into the training room. Generally speaking, when you load into a game, you're going to see this screen. My favourite side is MARSOC, but each round you take turns being the different side. MARSOC's got a very nice automatic rifleman config. It's the only config you really want to consider as a noob. That's the SA-80, and that's the one with the drum-fed magazine. If you chose Volk, they've also got a drum-fed magazine LMG. It's called the G3. Make sure you choose that. My best config is holographic, foregrip, FMJ, grenade, M9 and smoke grenade. That's going to give me everything I need to teach you guys exactly how to play, so I'm going to confirm that loadout and start mission. Now, I did call that the best noob config. Personally, I think it's the best config in the game. There's just no parallel to having 158 rounds ready to rock in a magazine. So here we are in the training zone. I'm going to cover everything in the order that you're probably going to need to know. First, it's going to be movement controls. That's all on your left trackpad right here. You can move your thumb on the trackpad to get movement in any of the directions, front, back, left or right, and the movement is relative to the orientation of your controller. So for instance, if I start walking forward, I flip over my remote. That's without changing my thumb position on the trackpad, and that's because it's moving my character relative to the controller. Alright, so bear that in mind. If you want to creep up slowly next to a doorway, you can do that by angling your controller up, and that way you can get some really fine control over your fine detail movement. Okay, so that's basically the movement. To sprint, you need to double click the trackpad when you're at full tilt on walk mode. Clicking the trackpad in twice while keeping your thumb on your direction of movement will put you into high speed mode, and you need to use that whenever you're crossing open cover, otherwise you are going to get blasted basically. If you don't know this, you need to know this. Practice with your movement. Make sure that you don't overexpose yourself when you're trying to edge up to cover to get a good view and stuff like that. You want to practice. The better you can get at movement, the better you're going to get at this game. So without further ado, we're going to cover your inventory. It's all just below your head, right here on your chest. We've got your primary weapon, your secondary weapon, 2 grenades, we've got a knife that you can reach up here, and we've got a needle down there. And we're going to cover everything right now on how to grab them. Grabbing your weapons is done with the grip buttons, so if I can grab my SA-80 with my grip buttons there, I've got my grip buttons on the pistol. You can decide whether you want the pistol on your hip or on your chest. That's a configurable option, and that's up to you. To grab the knife, you go up to your top left shoulder and click the grip buttons and you'll get your knife. And the other thing you can hold in your hand is the iPad, which shows you map objectives and information. To grab the iPad, you just reach your hand behind your back to where your lower belt would be. You click the top button, that's the top button, menu button right there, and that'll get you your iPad. So the iPad's showing you the white dot, which is the objective. If you are MARSOC, you need to get to that objective and put in the code. If you are Volk, you need to stop MARSOC from doing that. You'll also see the green triangle there, that's my position. If you're in a game with friendlies, you'll see green circles, which represent full health friendlies. You'll see yellow circles, which represent injured friendlies who are still on their feet. And you'll also see red circles, dots, which would represent friendlies being downed and requiring medical assistance to get back in the game. Alright, anybody who's red and downed on the floor is eventually going to bleed out, so there is a bit of a time limit if you do want to try and save your teammates. That's everything really you need to know about the iPad, except the code button. If you are MARSOC, the way to complete an objective is to go to code, memorize this code right here, press back, put send code. There'll be a new button if you're close to the objective, hit send code, and you punch in that number you've remembered. If you manage to do this correctly, you'll win the round and you'll get 2 round points for your team. It's a highly beneficial move for your team if you can win with the objective. Alright, I'll put that away for now. I'm just going to cover everything you need to know about your weapons. Firing's pretty simple, you just pull the trigger. Just bear in mind that if you're going to go full auto with any weapon, you've only got one hand with it, it's going to act a bit crazy. I'm going to demonstrate this now. As compared to having 2 hands on the weapon, where you click your grips on the forward position of your primary weapon, you get a 2-handed hold, and that has got much more stable. It's much more stable firing platform. This is true for the secondary as well. You can do single-handed shots, or you can place your hand underneath and grip. successive shots are going to be more stable. Once you've run a magazine dry, your slide action is going to be locked in the rear position. You need to eject the magazine. With most weapons you can press down on the D-pad and it'll just fall out. Your magazine's going to be there, whatever weapon you've got in your hand. Grab a new one with trigger, hold the trigger, move it close to the weapon, and there you go. To move the slide forward, you press up on the D-pad, and you're ready to fire again. So yeah, so that's down on the D-pad, reach for a mag, slide in, and up on the D-pad, or you could manual it with the other hand by pressing the trigger. That's a different way of doing it as well. I'll just go through that a bit more with the SA-80 right here. The SA-80 is 150 rounds approximately of drum-fed ownage. You can reload it in about half a second. We're going to rinse the magazine dry and we're going to try a quick reload. So yeah, that should be enough rounds to kill the entire team, but if you do need to reload, it's down on the D-pad. Because the magazine hasn't fall out, I need to hold down on the D-pad and snatch with the trigger. That's an empty mag right there. Whack a new one in, and operate the slide with D-pad up, and I'm back in. So we've gone through the fire controls and reload controls. Basically every weapon is sort of a permutation on what I've just showed you there. Remember that if the magazine doesn't fall out, you need to snatch it with the other hand. That's very important. And belt-fed machine guns, you need to do a little bit more, but I'm sure you'll work that out for yourself. So we're going to go straight onto grenades now. I'm rocking two different grenades on this config. First one's a frag grenade. With any grenade, you've got two different actions you can perform with them, as well as throwing them. First is obviously to pull the pin. If you pull the pin, you can't put it back on your vest. You do need to throw it as soon as you've done that, alright? So if you end up in this situation, your only option is to get rid of the grenade in your hand. So I'm not going to flick the spoon to cook it. I'm going to try and see if I can launch it into that tower. I'm going to use my elite grenade throw technique by pointing with my offhand, leaving my rear hand back and overhanding it. Right, let's see how this goes. Oh, fuck me. I went straight through. Well, I was happy with that one. You can cook grenades as well. It's probably not as easy to demonstrate with this, but there is a spoon on this one. If you press up on the D-pad with any grenade, you'll flick the spoon off and the countdown to detonation will start. Because it's a smoke grenade, it just starts kicking out smoke straight away. With the smoke grenades, you can run with them, you can throw them halfway through their burn, basically anything you guys want to do. Practice often and practice hard with your grenades. The more accurate you can be with your grenade throwing, the more kills you're going to get, and it is possible to take out entire teams with one well-placed grenade sometimes, so yeah, work with it. We got the got the knife next. It's up on the left shoulder. If you go to the left shoulder and click the grip buttons, you'll get the knife. Knife's pretty much an instant kill if you can jab somebody with it, but it only does damage if you hold the trigger. So remember to hold the trigger before you start lunging at people and sticking them with a sharp end. Otherwise, it's not going to be good for you. People are just going to think, what the fuck are you doing? And they'll turn around and just shoot you while you're waving your arms in their face. That was the first time I tried to stab somebody. Didn't go too well. Learn from my mistakes, people. We're going to put the knife back in the same position as the knife. If you press the trigger, you'll get onto the radio. This is Ragemaster checking in on the radio, over. Basically, the time that you hold the trigger down is your broadcast time. As soon as you release the trigger, it'll stop broadcasting. Anybody on your team can hear that radio message. Bear in mind that anything you say during the game is going to be heard by the enemy if they're within earshot. So if you're trying to be stealthy and shit, don't go on the radio. You know, don't have a conversation with your mate in the room. Because people are going to hear that shit, they're going to know exactly where they are, and they're going to come and they're going to blow your fucking brains out. Alright, so that's pretty much everything except medkits. We're going to start with the medkits now. If you've been shot, you need to use the needle. You can place the needle anywhere in your hitbox, in your hand, on your torso. You can inject yourself in the face. The way you do this is by holding the trigger and pressing up on the D-pad when the needle's inside you. So if I shoot myself in the hand, you'll see that it hurts. Probably a good time to tell you guys about the effect of being shot. It's this darkened screen, it's elevated breathing rate, and you can hear the heartbeat in the background. And I'm going to use the needle, and I'm going to give myself a dose of morphine to the eyeball. Morphine to the eyeball. Morphine. Ooh, I just eyeballed morphine, man. full health. Who knew that that was the best way to administer drugs? Who knew? Alright, so basically you guys pretty much know everything. I want to go through some of my more advanced strats for you now, especially with the LMG. You want to consider the effect of suppressive fire. Basically, there's a suppression system in the game whereby if any enemy fire comes in close to you, or whizzes past you, or impacts on a surface close to you, you're going to experience the suppression effect, which is a little bit like getting actually shot, except for that your screen are just going to darken instead of getting the heavy breathing and what have you. This affects your enemies as much as it affects you, and if you've got an LMG, you can make it affect your enemies a lot. So let's imagine that this terrorist right here is a player, and let's imagine that let's imagine that on the other side from him. Let's imagine I'm over here. So he's on the other side of that wall. If I spray this wall, after about that many shots, his screen is going to be dark as fuck like, and he's going to be going, oh shit man, I got incoming fire man. He's going to be panicking. He's probably not going to be thinking about returning fire. He's probably not going to have good vision to be able to spot you. You need to use this as much as you possible in your favour. Do this basically just by spraying rounds liberally wherever you think you might see the enemy, and that is pretty much your job as an LMG man anyway. So make sure that you use the suppression on your enemies as much as possible. With 150 range, you've got a lot of flexibility to do things like blind fire, which is pretty easy. Just edge yourself up to a wall. If you know that there's somebody around the other side, you can just hold your gun out like this, pull the trigger, do a bit of waving. On their screen, they're going to see the hands, and they're going to see a lot of bullets. They're not going to see any sort of body mass for them to target. They could get a lucky hit on their hands, on your hands, I suppose. But if you've already launched 30 rounds with another 120 to go, then they're probably not going to be thinking too much about returning fire, are they? So with regards to suppressive fire, you can also do the blind firing. You can also do pre-firing as well if you need to round a corner, which you know an enemy's round. That's basically a pre-fire. We'll do it again on the next corner. So, for the cost of what, 15 rounds, you can pre-fire your way around any corner, and you've still got like, what, 135 rounds after you've done that? So, yeah, it's all advantages that you get when you're playing with the LMG, so that's why I recommend the LMG. Another thing is, if you're not super quick at reloading, then you don't want to reload at all, really, and you don't have to. You can pretty much defeat an entire round if you play conservatively with the amount of rounds you have in one magazine. So that's why this is my favourite config, guys. If you've enjoyed this video, I'll be making some more on a few hints and tips in the future. Thanks very much for the 300 subscribers. Just to let you guys know, we only started this channel about a month back. I've only been editing videos and recording videos for about a month. Just super stoked that you guys enjoy what we do. If you really did enjoy this video, give us a like. If you want to see more like it, subscribe. If you want to know anything about Onward, this channel, anything to do with VR, give us a comment. I'll try and answer to pretty much any qualitative comment that you guys leave. So yeah, thanks very much for listening, guys. Hopefully I'll see you guys in game, and I'll see you in the future if there is one. Bye for now.